Hi, today we're going to take a closer look at the Flockport databases module. The databases module allows you to deploy replicated databases across your cluster. You can currently deploy replicated MySQL, PostgreSQL, Galera, Elastic, and Cassandra clusters. This is one-click deployment. Just select the database, the count, the server group, and Flockport will deploy a replicated database cluster for you. Flockport lets you group servers by tags. You can do this in the server management panel. You can click on tags and the servers panel will show you the tag servers. So this allows you to target groups of servers. The allowed subnet is the subnet allowed to connect to the database instance. Once you click on add, Flockport will deploy the cluster. You can click on list clusters to see all deployed databases and get details on the deployment. In this case, we can see we already have 2 clusters deployed. ClusterOp lets you add replicas, add more subnets, and also in the case of a primary-secondary cluster to promote a secondary to a primary. You can also make snapshots of replicated clusters. The Databases tab lets you add and delete databases and also list databases. This is really useful as you can manage databases in your cluster directly from the UI. Let's list databases in the MariaDB cluster. Once we click on list, it will show all the databases in the instance. And in this case, we can see the cluster has 3 databases. Similarly, you can add and delete databases from this menu. You can also roll out individual database instances with the databases added. This is useful to provision for apps and can be done from the API and the UI. You can also tag clusters with tags to group them together. So let's add a database cluster to show you how it works. We'll add a MySQL cluster. We'll choose a count of 3. We'll choose VPC as the server group and the 1016 subnet as the allowed subnet. Once we click on add cluster, Flockport will deploy a MySQL cluster in the chosen server group ready to use. This may take a few minutes. We can see a MariaDB cluster has been successfully deployed to the VPC group. We'll list clusters to get details on the deployed cluster. As you can see the cluster we just deployed, since this is a primary-secondary cluster, we can see the primary IP is 10.5.229, which is the CentOS 7 server, and the 2 replicas have been deployed to the XenialF and the Alpine 392F servers. Let's now list the databases in our new MySQL cluster, and we can see there are none. Let's add a WordPress database to the replicated cluster. The user will be WordPress and the allowed subnet will be 10.16. Once we click on dbadd, Flockport will create a new database in the replicated cluster, and we can see the WordPress database was successfully created. If we list databases, we'll see the WordPress database is now listed. Let's create one more database. We'll go with WordPress 2. The WordPress 2 database was also successfully created. So let's select the cluster and list the databases now that we've created 2 databases, and we can see both databases are now listed. We've tried to make it simple for users to deploy and manage cluster databases, and we hope this is useful for end users. Thank you for watching. You can watch more demos on flockport.com and here.